Hello everybody, and welcome to Fasting with Friends. Today guys, I'm very happy. You know why I'm happy? Because these two finally listened and finally watched something that I recommended. Isn't that a joy? So, I recommended Invincible to these guys, the newest hit Amazon Prime series, and guess what? They absolutely loved it! So, more of the story, listen more to me, watch what I tell you to watch. Take it away, boys.
Yeah, so finally, after being continuously and intensely lobbied by both Lawrence and Ivaylo, I eventually watched Invincible in more than one sitting. I got to see it. I have a few things to say, mostly on the amount of violence in the show and the effects that could have, and whether that justifies the, spoiler alert, goal of Omni-Man, which is revealed in the final episode. So I want to mostly dwell on that, but I'll allow the other guys to talk about what they want, and I might bring a little bit of faith-based philosophy into it as well.
I mean, the first thing I want to start with is just Omni-Man. Perfect casting as a voice actor, J.K. Simmons. I don't think I can think of anyone who would have fit what Omni-Man is voice-wise better than J.K. Simmons. It's literally just do what you did in Whiplash, but now and then only. And it's like, yeah, fits perfectly. This is exactly what I wanted.
Joe hasn't seen Whiplash, but go on, you go on.
No, but like, the audience will know. Joe's the uncultured one. Our audience are smart boys. J.K. Simmons nails the role. He's probably my favorite part of the show. Omni-Man's the most interesting part, both because he is, he's the show, and I have read some of the comic just to the point where the show ends because I wanted to see the differences. The show tells you that he's the one who murdered the, Justice League version of this world immediately at the end of episode 1. And it's the coolest, little change of theme, I guess. Because the show's setting itself up to be a very normal, like, old Justice League that we all watched when we were younger type of superhero show where it's there's hints of violence and like the over-the-top nature of it, but there's not a lot up until that final scene in episode 1. And then that scene in episode 1 just shifts the entire show into what it actually is. And in the comic book, you don't know that it's Omni-Man who did that right away. They actually keep the person who did that hidden for a while. So I personally think that it's way better the way it is done in the show, because by knowing it's Omni-Man right away, you immediately start questioning every action he chooses to make for the rest of the series. And the things he says and the things he does have more significance as a result, because you understand what he means when he says, this is not your planet to conquer, to the aliens whose planet he goes and just fucking wrecks.
Yep.
Things like that land better when you know immediately, who Omni-Man actually is and that he killed the Guardians. And I just feel like he was perfectly cast. He's written really well as a, like, super fucking bad, irredeemable villain, but still, like, you love watching him. You love hearing him. You're just like, oh, keep going, bro. It's so entertaining. I love it.
That's the thing. Like, the biggest strength of this show for me is also its biggest weakness in this regard. Now, I'm not shitting on the show. I love the show. But after that massive scene in episode 1, I remember it was like all over Twitter, all over Instagram. Oh, look, check out this animated show with like this super violent superhero ripoff. Because you see that in episode 1, your mind is just entirely dominated by Omni-Man, which in a way allows you to not focus on the other characters as much. He dominates the entire narrative with that one scene. It's absolutely insane, because like for the rest of like 8 episodes, you're like thinking, okay, this is all good stuff. But Omni-Man though! Omni-Man,
I think that's great in this case because it does something that a lot of people who do the evil Superman storyline try to go for this, and I feel like one of the only times it's been done well before Invincible, I think. Which comic book came first? The Boys or Invincible? We'll find that out later.
Yeah.
But The Boys manages to do this with Homelander very well, but because you know what Omni-Man can do from that first scene, at least a fraction of what he can actually do, you feel a tension anytime Omni-Man is on scene, right? Like, anytime anyone's snooping around and it's like trying to be sneaky around Omni-Man, you're like, oh man, you shouldn't be fucking doing that. Omni-Man would kick your ass. You're gonna fucking die. So like every scene, you're just like, I know what he can do because of that, change at the first episode. So for the rest of it, he is a credible and real threat. Whenever he's around, you're feeling it. Even when he's not around, because he can be anywhere instantly, more or less. It's like, oh, this fucking Omni-Man could be around the corner. You could die.
100%.
So yeah, no, I like that. I like that it sets him up as a credible threat. When Mark's mom, is snooping
Debbie,
around their house, and Debbie's snooping around and looking for shit and finding stuff on Omni-Man, his suit, his bloody suit, all that. You're just like, oh, Debbie, don't do it, you're gonna die.
No. Or the fucking demon detective, he was the best.
You mean Hellboy crossed with Rorschach?
Yeah, my guy was everywhere, and you're just like, no, please, you don't want to be into this. And then he absolutely just gets screwed by Cecil and the rest of them. But
I love Cecil too, though. Cecil's such an interesting character. We have to talk about Cecil a little.
We shall.
He is so... the fact that by the end he's throwing, every threat we've seen build up through the season against Omni-Man to try and screw him over and stop him is such an interesting change of dynamic.
Yeah. That's another thing I love about the show. And you all know I've ranted on this podcast many times about long-term storytelling. And the fact that, again, every single thing you see... And you're wondering, why is Cecil possibly collecting these? Because after every single defeat, he goes and sends that Donald's, my guy Donald, R.I.P. Donald's. He collects everything, and it's just well, what do you need this for? I guess science purposes. But then when he actually just sets them all on Omni-Man, you're like, so they're an insurance policy all along.
You're literally so you were doing what the Batman version of the Guardian should have been doing this whole time.
Well, they called him Blackwing, didn't they? Blackwing. Yeah. Oh no.
Darkwing Duck, baby.
Oh god, that scene is still fucking insane. But yeah, Omni-Man,
I love it.
Omni-Man dominates everything. J.K. Simmons is amazing in everything he does. Probably one of my favorite actors.
He's anything he's in, literally, he's one of my favorite parts of what he's in. In 100%. The Spider-Man films he was in, he's my favorite part. Anytime Jonah's on the screen, you're like, oh my god, I love you, you're perfect.
100%, man. And also in Whiplash, which we will do an episode on. I suggested it to Joe that we do an episode on Whiplash and
Whiplash is to be continued for Whiplash, because that's another thing that you have to talk about.
100%.
Yeah, another thing I feel goes a bit underrated, like Ivaylo said, because people focus so much on Omni-Man, is the side characters are all really fun. Mm-hmm. At least for the most part. My favorites, and that for a very obvious reason that Ivaylo knows, I love the Molar twins.
Run the Jewels,
anytime they're on screen, Run the Jewels song start playing, and that's one of my favorite groups ever. And it's this is so good. Anytime Don't Get Captured starts and they're breaking out of prison, I'm like, oh my god, who made this? Who picked the soundtrack? Was it me from a different land? What the fuck's going on?
I do love the Molar twins. They have a nice little dynamic where they go from the sea villains to
oh yeah, and then they're actually constantly around. They're doing stuff they do matters. It's so interesting.
And the whole robot,
because they get that scene at the start where it's them versus the Guardians to set up the Guardians, right? And then the Guardians fucking die, but the Molar twins are still doing their shit, bro.
Yeah, man. And you see actually one of them die, and then he makes another one.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite scene, where it's if you weren't the clone, you should have known that's what I was gonna do. It's that's such fucking...
Right. I wanted to propose a counter-argument to Omni-Man being the main character, and he is, to some extent, I think. But I also think Mark is obviously...
I love Mark.
...a main character too, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a way, watching the series from the point of view of Mark, gives you the sense that it's a Bildungsroman. It's a coming-of-age story for him. And he doesn't know who his father is. He thinks he does. And based on the stories that he's being told, he's got this idea. So he tries to form an identity around who his father is, but he also tries to avoid that because he can't let everyone know who his father is or who he is up until a certain point. So that brings us to why Omni-Man didn't tell him the truth. And we find that out in the final episode, just after they've beaten this Lovecraftian horror monster that Cecil has thrown at them. And Omni-Man is like, okay, fine, I'll tell you the truth. And the truth is, Viltrumite ideology of survival of the fittest and conquest of every known matter and galaxy in the universe.
Yeah, they're Nietzschean space Nazis.
Exactly,
flat out.
Absolutely.
Yep, 100%.
Omni-Man has been sent to Earth to not only make it weak and prepared for an Viltrumite invasion, but to make him docile as well.
Yeah.
So for him...
Yeah, and to make sure no one else takes the planet except for them.
Exactly. And they're known for never leaving their posts, right?
Yeah.
Omni-Man is perhaps the first Viltrumite that we know of who does leave his post, and he leaves his post because of the love that he feels for Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he has a moment where he's like, shit, maybe I shouldn't kill my son.
And not just kill my
But-
son, he's just beaten Mark to a pulp, which thankfully gave us the meme, think, Mark, think.
Mark,
Think, Mark, think!
But the idea is that he's used unbridled anger and rage to beat up his son because he's trying to nail it into him that, look, you're a Viltrumite, you're not a human, you might be part human, but you're going to live for years to come. Your mother's going to die,
Yeah,
all
no,
your
my
friends are going to
favorite
die.
line is literally, look at what they have to do to mimic a fraction of
Yes.
our
Which
power.
is also a meme.
That's such a perfect line to
Yeah.
set up exactly
Yeah.
their ideology.
Exactly.
Like, if we are supermen, why the fuck would we care about... Look at that plane that I just flicked out the
And we
sky.
see how indestructible Omni-Man is when that laser is shot at him and he
Oh,
just
the
does
orbital
nothing.
weapon.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he just flies right into it and blows it up.
That's another scene I really love because it's just like the orbital laser's about to fire and fucking Omni-Man looks up and goes, "You wouldn't, Cecil," and then he fucking does.
Yeah.
That's such a good moment. That's such a memorable scene.
So, Omni-Man, the way I see it was when I was watching him trying to teach Mark, about his powers and about himself, you get that sense of, is Omni-Man jealous of his own son? But then you realize, no, it wasn't jealousy, it was worry. He was actually worried.
Well, yeah, because he sees like Mark be so soft compared to like what Viltrumites are meant to be, and he's probably thinking like, even if I do like convince him, even if he comes back with me to Viltrum, are we just gonna like? Am I gonna watch him get killed by
Exactly.
other Viltrumites because he's such a bitch?
And something that Omni-Man says, Nolan, or Omni-Man, is when Mark asks him about his parents, he talks about his parents being dead. So that gives you the idea of, well, they didn't survive. Did Omni-Man kill them?
Yeah.
Did someone else kill them? And he feels no regret for that. He feels no grief for that. So that gives you the extent of Omni-Man's morality is he's focused, laser focused on his goal of not invading, but assimilating Earth into the Viltrumite Empire, right? And nothing else can get in the way, not even his own son. But eventually, he does leave Earth. He leaves his post when he's not supposed to. And we'll come to that in a bit.
I think the very powerful scene that often goes unnoticed is also in episode 1, where he's talking with his wife and he says, you know what, maybe it's better that his powers don't awaken.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where you kind of understand that he does not want Mark to awaken his powers because of all the complications that will arise.
Well, yeah,
For
because then
Viltrum.
Mark has to be convinced as well
Yep.
to
Yes.
join Viltrum.
If he never gets
if
his
he
powers,
didn't have his powers, exactly, he wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to fight his dad. His dad wouldn't have to talk him
and
into
the whole
being,
invasion, the whole invasion of Earth would be much easier because there will only
Yeah.
be one Viltrumite. So
Yeah.
that's incredibly poignant. And I also wanted to say how I love Mark purely for the reason why I love all the other characters that I do. He gets the guts treatment in a way.
Bro, he gets his shit kicked.
Yes,
in.
Yeah.
every single fight he goes into, he loses, and I love characters who do that because they have to overcome a learning curve. I have grown to dislike characters that just go into a fight and win through the power of friendship or through training. They can win through training, but like not off the bat.
Yeah.
And the fact
Yeah,
Mark,
it needs to be earned. And
Yes.
with Mark, it's like
That's right.
he's earned a win from getting like his shit kicked in for like an entire season. He needs to win
for
something.
next season, I'll be happy when Mark finally gets a win. But for now, every single fight he's in, every single villain he's faced, no matter how minor or how major, he's gotten his head kicked in, and obviously
Yeah.
culminating with the final fight against his father, which
And I mean that entire final episode, it's like
it's
good,
not
good
even
goddamn.
it's not even a fight. It's
No,
just,
it's
just
literally like
punishing.
the power differential between the two characters. It's like if a shonen character from an anime took on like a fucking slice of life protagonist.
Exactly.
It's like shit, bro. Just chill.
It's just insane, and I think that final episode really showcases everything that this show is about. I feel like this show portrays abuse incredibly well. I think that
yes.
Omni-Man is a
Yeah, why did you make me do this?
that is the
Yes,
that was
that's
gonna
right.
go for that line. That's a line that's unfortunately a lot of people who do abuse go through, because they obviously
That's right.
place blame on the victim. Why did you make me do this? And like the whole think Mark think, like, this is your fault. I am beating you and abusing you because this
all
is
you
your
have
fault.
to do is just agree with me, and then I'll
Yes.
stop beating you.
It's not just a beating, right? He uses Mark as a shield to literally mince people on the subway and probably traumatizes that kid for the rest of his life.
That was a painful scene.
That scene is not in the comic book. That scene is show only.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
did get that far, and that's like an interesting addition. I think the reason they did that, right, the way I thought about it since also reading up to that point in the comic, is by showing Omni-Man do what he did to the Guardians in the way more visceral detail they had to one-up the way he shows violence to Mark.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that scene is the one-upping. You wouldn't be, as a viewer, as like, you know, wowed by that moment if you've already seen how he fucking pwned the Guardians in that first episode.
So let's talk about violence real quick. 2 comparisons. Mark being convinced by the Titan to go help him and beat up Dad Crime Boss.
I fucking love Titan. That's another great side
He's going to be
Hell
so
yeah.
good in season 2.
Hell yeah.
And just generally Omni-Man's violent approach as a solution to every problem.
Yeah.
Thing is, though, right? Like, for Omni-Man, that works. He's strong enough that violence is a solution. He literally wins.
He was raised on it.
By the end of season 1, if he didn't leave by choice, Earth fucking lost.
Right.
Like, it's over, guys. Mark's fucked. Cecil used every super weapon. It's over.
Yeah, 100%.
But with Mark, he only uses violence when he absolutely needs to, as in when his rival, when his opponent is so overpowered or compared to the normal person that nobody else can stand up to them or defend. I mean, we see him in the first episode being incapable of standing in front of the alien invasion.
Oh, and just being shit at judging his own powers. Like, he
Right.
accidentally kills multiple people because he doesn't understand
He
that
does,
he's got,
'cause he
like,
doesn't know.
fucking superpower.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, think of the first scene where he, like, discovers his power. He throws, like, a trash bin into the fucking orbit. Like, and that's by accident.
So he doesn't innately want to use violence. He only wants to use it to help people, right?
Yeah.
So he becomes the hero that they need, even though we don't get to choose who our heroes are. And everyone up until this point thinks Omni-Man is the be-all and end-all after the Guardians are killed by him.
Yeah.
But, you know, violence is this presentation designed in media anyway to appeal to base human instinct, right? Because it's against the dignity of the other. And I think what it also does, especially for Omni-Man, is it creates disdain for the other. So he starts to not hate, but just despise humanity. You know, when they're in Italy with his wife, and there's some sort of attack, and it's like, I'm on holiday, let Cecil earn his pay.
Yeah.
You can really see that if he wasn't on a mission on Earth, he wouldn't want to be there at that moment.
Yep. No. Exactly.
I mean, I think also Omni-Man's interesting because you can tell that he's fucking bored of doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, he is so tired. Everything he deals with in the show is, like, for him, nothing.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing in the world. The way you see him, like, decimate that alien planet and then come back home by dinner and be like, yeah, you know,
Can we talk about one of the most derogatory lines he says? Yo, you
What,
see,
your mum's like
you
a
see,
dog.
your mother's like a pet to me. You know?
Right.
Like, wow.
That was
Wow.
hard.
Yeah, just.
I mean, it's fucked up, but it's also like, it's still better than him saying she's worth nothing to him. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's like, if he had said that, I didn't even fucking consider that, like, I would have just killed her.
No.
That'd be worse, because it shows that even to someone who's as, like, far gone and, like, brainwashed and fucking above humanity as him, even he's like, I don't want to kill your mom, or you. I
Yeah.
still care about you fucking idiots. It's just, I've been taught that you're below me, so what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and the thing is, right, the reason why I offered this show and this episodes for the podcast, I wanted to ask you guys a following question. Like, you obviously mentioned the boys and you obviously mentioned everything else. I was most concerned with, why have we, as a society, kind of shifted our focus towards characters like Omni-Man, Homelander, even Superman in some adaptations of the DC comics. Why have we turned these figures of perfection, of ultimate power, of moral righteousness, these messiahs, if I'm allowed to use that word, into just horrible, tyrannical scumbags?
Well, I've had an answer for this for years. It's because perfection is inherently inhuman. And to have someone who's perfect, you cannot apply the same systems to them because they wouldn't care, because they are already beyond that. We apply morality and other shit to ourselves in a in a like journey to try and be closer to what we deem as perfect. That's why we have rules, morality, laws, etc. We're aiming for like a standard of perfection in society and as human beings. If you're someone who's so far beyond humans that you're literally invincible, as the title of the fucking show, then you probably just wouldn't care anymore, because nothing would hold significance for you. You would already have been able to meet every standard other people spend their entire lifetimes aiming to get to, and once you get there, what's left to do?
But isn't that why Superman is a hero? Because
No.
because he is perfect, and because he has all this power, he still chooses to do the morally right thing.
Yeah, but the reality is no one would choose.
I know, but it's not about reality.
That's why we find it fascinating, Ivaylo, because yeah, we know why Superman's a hero. It's 60 years of that. When did Superman come out? It was like World War II-ish. Superman comics were already out there. So like for 40 plus years, as the world around them got worse and more cynical, people were like, look, it's the perfect symbol of justice and goodness. And now it's like, fuck off. I know what I'd do if you gave me that level of power. I sure as fuck wouldn't be saving people.
Well, no, but we have to maintain that, right? You have to maintain that hope that, you know, there is hope.
No, Ivaylo, we have to subvert expectations.
Yeah, but you've done it one too many times. If they weren't done as good as Omni-Man and Homelander, I would be sick of tyrannical Supermans. I genuinely would be. I'm sick of tyrannical Supermans now. Like, look at Zack Snyder's Superman. He's a fucking broody.
Yeah, but that's because Zack Snyder doesn't know how to write. That's the difference.
Wow.
If written well, any trope, no matter how overdone, can still be done well. It just requires someone with talent.
Yeah.
I think when we mentioned earlier that we don't choose our saviors or heroes, it sort of plays into that because you're given this character and you're meant to think that he is the hero of the story, but it turns out to actually be the villain, right? So number one, it's subverting expectations, and number two, there's a profit motive because that sells a lot more than Superman. It sells a lot more than Jesus coming to save you, even though that's, in my belief anyway, the truth, right? People don't want to sit down and watch for entertainment some guy who's kind and good and, you know, righteous coming to be the hero.
Yeah, it's why a lot of people find Superman boring. Because it's like...
Exactly.
What am I going to expect? He's going to save the day. He's never going to feel morally conflicted. Because, of course, he knows what's right. Because fucking Martha and, you know, fucking Daddy Kent taught him well.
But that's the thing. He's a human at heart. He's raised by humans to do the right thing. That's the difference.
Yeah. But, like, again, he's raised by humans. There you go. It's because he's raised by people who do fall within the non-perfect being with standards and morals and systems and shit that he ends up the way he does. If someone like Homelander, who didn't have parents and was grown in a lab, had those powers, he'd end up like Homelander.
I disagree. I don't think so. I think that's the appeal of Superman. I think having all that power and still maintaining your humanity is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, but you're also a weirdo. If I gave you power, you'd say you use it for good. I'm telling you right now, I would nuke this planet if you gave me Superman powers.
I don't think you would.
I would throw this ball into the sun just to see what happens.
Ivaylo, I think he's onto something because when I was watching El Camino recently, the movie with what's his name again? Jesse Pinkman.
Jesse Pinkman.
According to Ivaylo, the unnecessary movie sequel to one of the greatest shows in Hollywood, which is also filled with violence, right?
It's disgusting. But anyways, go on.
As soon as the workmen who raid Todd's apartment get hold of that money, what do? The first things they buy are drugs and women.
Hell yeah.
Right?
I mean...
So if you give anyone power, if you give anyone wealth, if you give them power, they go straight for violence. If you give them money...
Well, that's why Superman is unique. I don't want realism in every single thing I read.
Well, everyone else does, though.
I agree with that, because we need some idealism in order to reform ourselves, in order to guide ourselves towards that idealism, right?
Yeah.
But the current trend in media has been towards the opposite, has been towards glorifying the villains because, A, it's a lot easier and a lot more fun for the writers, even though it's not morally correct, and it sells a lot more, right?
I mean, also, I'm gonna bring this up. I don't give a shit about morals in my fucking fiction. Keep them out. I don't care.
Right, but what it does on a subconscious level is that bit by bit it chips away at your morality, right?
I mean, it doesn't, because I have no morality. Welcome to my life.
Well, you might be a special case in that regard, but for the general audience, right, it chips away at the morality and it makes it more commonplace, you know, especially sadistic violence that we see in Invincible. So once it becomes commonplace and you see it as normal,
Haven't we had this discussion with Django?
we did have this discussion with Inglourious Basterds, right? And I came out on the side of, violence can be sometimes cathartic, but we also talked about how violence can be detrimental. And it still remains detrimental, no matter how much we see it in media. And even though we stand on the side of, we're not as impressionable as perhaps some members of the audience where we'll see something and it will affect us profoundly. That's not the same for everybody else, especially young children. And we're talking about an
on
animation.
average, it is the same because enough studies exist now that claim and show with evidence that media and games don't make you more violent.
Exactly. All I'm saying, I love the subversions of the messianic hero into a villain. I love those. But I also don't want the original idea of having all this power and doing the right thing to be completely erased and forgotten. Because we also need that too as a society, in my opinion.
I mean, you have that character, though. You have Mark.
Right.
Yeah, but and he gets absolutely destroyed. That's the thing.
Yeah, which is how it would usually go.
Yeah, exactly, but I hope that...
What happens to good people in real life? They usually get assassinated.
That's the thing. I hope that when the story progresses, after everything Mark has just gone through, and every loss he's taken, every damage he's suffered, that he will eventually overcome even his own father, and show that righteousness and being invincible in spirit is the right way to go.
Right.
Thank you. Yes.
So what you need really is both the thesis and the antithesis. So you've got Mark and his father, right?
Mm-hmm.
Without that, you can't have a synthesis structurally in the story, right?
Yeah.
And I think I like what you mentioned there about being invincible in spirit, because the idea is that young people usually think that they're invincible, especially physically. And it turns out that Mark isn't really. I mean, if it wasn't a Viltrumite, he would have been dead.
I mean, he would have been dead even as a fucking Viltrumite. Beastman almost whacks him.
Yeah.
Right.
Soaring COVID cases in the UK amongst the young population. Anyways, moving on.
Very topical.
We're not invincible. We're not invincible, boys. Oh, so that's another thing I want to see. I like that the title card gets bloodier and bloodier.
Oh yeah, as he gets more fucked.
As he gets more destroyed. But yeah.
I want to know what the fuck they're going to do in season 2 with the title card. Is it going to like reverse?
Just throw intestines at it, Just
No, dude, you just can't read it anymore. It's just like, what the fuck am I looking at? Like someone has to come on screen, like Cecil comes on and cleans it with a rag.
At the end, it's just a red screen in general, no letters, just fucking blood.
What I want to say from my point of view is that although Invincible is not a show that I would usually watch, it's a great character study.
It is.
So for that reason, I'll continue to watch it, not because I'm intrigued by the violence or I want to see what Omni-Man gets up to. I have enough of an imagination to at least guess what he's going to get up to, right? But in order to see how far the showrunners are willing to go, and how gruesome they're willing to get, and how much the audience will be accepting of it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen The Boys. We know the audience is very accepting no matter
and
where you go.
that's the thing. I feel like that with animation, you can get away with a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm not nearly as disturbed by this show as I am by The Boys.
Yeah, because The Boys is like,
yeah.
Goddamn, the gore in that show is like high fucking fidelity.
It is insane.
Anytime fucking Homelander does anything, you're like, ooh, that looked fucking nice.
Nah, it's the season 2 vision where he lasers the entire audience. Spoilers.
Oh yeah, from like a bird's eye point of view.
Yeah. But
Can we all talk about how fucking certain characters were really trash though?
Oh yeah, go
Can
for
we
it.
all mention how Amber is fucking trash? Now, for people who go to the whole, they changed her from I don't care that they changed her from the comics. I saw the show first. She's trash in both. I don't like her in either. But I think she's worse in the show because of the one change, which is, I knew you were fucking invincible and I still said all this dumb shit. I'm just like, man, fucking leave, Mark. Fly out the fucking window. Find someone nice.
The funny thing about Amber is that she's a foil to Eve, right? And we're all supposed to like Eve, and I kind of do. I like Eve a lot more than Amber. But then we see Amber kissing Mark at the end of the show, so it's like, oh, everything's fine, even though we broke up. And I'm like, okay.
That was the most annoying thing to me. The fact he's just like, oh yeah, great. Like, motherfucker, do you remember why she broke up with you?
The only good Amber episode was the episode on campus where that one friend of hers just lost his loved one as well. That was when he got turned into like a mindless monster.
Oh
that was the only good Amber episode. I really don't like Amber.
It's honestly, I didn't even like that one because that's where by the end she's all like, you ran away, Mark, you abandoned us, even though an episode later she's like, I knew you were invincible. Like,
yeah.
what are you fucking talking about then, bitch? Are you stupid?
she's very inconsistent, and I do prefer Atom Eve over her. But
I don't prefer. I wish they'd stop fucking shoehorning romances into
No,
everything.
bro,
Just
you
fucking
have to have a ship.
leave my man to be
Yes.
a G.
Nah,
Yes.
bro. Nah, bro. Just because
what, what did we all?
Go on.
What did we all think about Robot? That's one character I think deserves a bit of talking.
Very interesting. I thought of him as a little finger in a metal flesh turned real. Because that's literally what he is. It's very
Did
creepy.
anyone else legitimately get kind of sad when he has to off his like original?
I kind of
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Like even the Mauler twins in the background are like, yo, this is why we don't clone ourselves with like a knowledge of which one's the new and the real one,
Yeah.
because it's like this is sad.
Sad Run the Jewels plays, you know,
Bro.
just melancholic Run the Jewels. But nah, man, I love the Robot subplot. I feel like he's a great character.
Robot's great. I really like the
I
way
wanna-
they played him in.
I want to see more of him, and you know, the fact he becomes like a younger version of that of Rexplosion or Rexplode or whatever. Fucking
Which is also
Fucking
creepy.
Rex is such a dipshit.
yeah, fuck that guy, bro. Like,
Oh yeah, definitely fuck him for both cheating on Eve and just being generally a dick.
my man had a
Oh god.
see, my man had a threesome with duplicates. That's.
I mean, hey, if you've got the power Duplicate has, then that is absolutely one of the main uses. But you know,
we move. Anyways,
Disgusting.
I love it.
there's a few other characters that I think get like no screen time whatsoever. The Immortal comes back just to like
Oh,
die
yeah.
Again.
just to get like destroyed instantly, which is so funny to me because he puts up a little bit of a fight and then Mark's just watching and then fucking Omni-Man pones him again and you're just like, oh, sick.
Can I say Seth Rogen's voice is perfect for the immortal dude?
Yeah.
Does he do the Immortal? Doesn't he do like the Alien?
Oh, sorry,
Alan
my bad.
the
The
Alien.
alien, Alan
Yeah,
the alien. That's it.
He
that's
does
it.
Alan, yeah.
I fucking loved Alan. He just comes in, he's like, yo, I'll give you a timeout. You look like you're winded. Like, what?
Wait, this is not Urath. It's Earth.
This is Earth.
I want to see
Oh,
more of Alan the alien. Next
Yeah.
season.
I mean, I'm sure we fucking will. The
Yeah.
implication by the end is like,
Yeah.
we're kind of gonna need him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Because Viltrumite's be coming, baby.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that Immortal was Abraham Lincoln for some bizarre
Bro,
reason.
that is so hilarious.
Right.
The fact that they don't even tiptoe around the fact that he's fucking Honest Abe is so hilarious to me.
Yeah,
That like cracked me the fuck up.
I love Invincible. Invincible's a good show with some deep morals, some good character studies, and a bit of comedy and some amazing violence. Obviously, if you haven't
I
watched
feel
it by
like
now,
it has
go watch
space
it.
to get. It has space to get so much better
It
if
will,
they like
it will.
continue down the right routes. And I feel like I really do want to see how they do the second season because I assume a lot of the audience wants to know what the fuck's happening with Omni-Man as well.
yeah,
So I'm wondering if they're gonna do like every now and then we see what Omni-Man's up to far, far away, and then we cut back to like on Earth with Invincible.
yep,
You know?
yep, 100%.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I think the way I envisioned the second season, just after finishing the show, was we're going to see a lot of Mark, obviously, and a bit of Omni-Man, and I thought that it would be good if they ended up the show with Omni-Man coming back to Earth in the final episode, just literally at the end of it, and Mark has gone through a lot of shit, and now he realizes he kind of probably needs his dad for whatever they're going to go through. We'll leave that for another time.
I literally have zero faith in Mark fighting off the Viltrumite Empire. I
Oh,
think the only reason like fucking Omni-Man is alive narratively is because he will be needed to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, most likely. But, you know, we can only guess at this point. You can read the comic
Like
if you
we
want.
saw
Yeah.
how Mark handled his dad. Imagine 50s of his dad. Just fucking.
No.
You know the Joker getting beat up at the start of the film by those kids fucking meme? That's Mark. The fucking Passione gang and JoJo beating up that dude for fucking the wine.
Bancho just drinking the wine and jumping straight.
Yeah. That's what would happen to Mark.
But yeah, wonderful show. If you haven't seen it so far, obviously, what are you doing watching this episode? Go watch it.
Right.
And
Yeah,
man.
even with like what we've said, it's still worth watching. Even if you know what happens from memes, it's still worth watching.
100%.
Why don't you guys give us a like and a subscribe and a follow so that we'll hopefully be able to cover the second season of Invincible.
Oh yeah. That's gonna be amazing if we're still here. I'm joking, of course we're gonna be still here. But yeah, if you guys are looking for some amazing music reviews, check me out at Ivinyls. I review my vinyl collection with a friend, and we go through albums together.
Link in the description.
And link in the description. And please like, subscribe, spread us to everyone far and wide. Spread us all the way to the Viltrum Empire. If we have, if we get any listeners in the Viltrum Empire, we will be very happy and pleased. And yeah, give us to your cousin Randy. And yeah, this has been Fasting with Friends. I'm your boy Ivaylo, joined by my two cohorts as always.
So yeah, this is Lawrence signing off. Please do support us, as Ivaylo said, because god damn it, we need the support, man. We're dying out here.
we do. But yeah.
And I've been Joe, and don't forget to go and support us on Patreon. That's the best place you can support us. See you guys next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.